So yesterday, as many of you listened to and watched and emailed me about, I interviewed Donald Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen. Now, Michael Cohen disagrees with me, or at least, I could be swayed, but I've been saying I don't believe Donald Trump is ultimately going to be charged with any crimes. Michael Cohen believes that he will, but Michael's commentary was really restricted to the financial stuff that Michael Cohen would know about, meaning sometimes overstating and sometimes understating the value of different assets for the purposes of either obtaining loans or minimizing taxes or whatever the case may be. There is now another layer as to the possible criminal charges that maybe would be coming Donald Trump's way. Now, I still am very skeptical that this is going to become a real thing. But at this point, there's a member of Congress that is alluding to it. So I do think that it's real enough that we should be talking about it. What am I talking about here? Well, yesterday we played, we reviewed text messages that Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney read during a hearing, which came from various Fox News hosts and Donald Trump Jr. to Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. Now, we're going to now look at some video of her talking about this, and it's about a 3-minute video. I'm going to play it all so that you get the full context. Pay special attention near the end, where Cheney actually says, did Donald Trump, through action or inaction, corruptly seek to obstruct or impede Congress's proceedings? I'll tell you in a moment why that is so relevant. Let's take a look at the video.
These text messages leave no doubt the White House knew exactly what was happening here at the Capitol. Members of Congress, the press, and others wrote to Mark Meadows as the attack was underway. One text Mr. Meadows received said, quote, "We are under siege here at the Capitol." Another, quote, "They have breached the Capitol." In a third, Mark, "Protesters are literally storming the Capitol, breaking windows on doors, rushing in. Is Trump going to say something?" A fourth, "There's an armed standoff at the House chamber door." And another from someone inside the Capitol, "We are all helpless." Dozens of texts, including from Trump administration officials, urged immediate action by the president. Quote, "POTUS has to come out firmly and tell the protesters to dissipate. Someone is going to get killed." In another, Mark, "He needs to stop this now." A third, in all caps, "Tell them to go home." A fourth, and I quote, "POTUS needs to calm this shit down." Indeed, according to the records, multiple Fox News hosts knew the president needed to act immediately. They texted Mr. Meadows, and he has turned over those texts. Quote, "Mark, the president needs to tell people in the Capitol to go home. This is hurting all of us. He is destroying his legacy," Laura Ingraham wrote. "Please get him on TV. Destroying everything you have accomplished," Brian Kilmeade texted. Quote, "Can he make a statement? Ask people to leave the Capitol," Sean Hannity urged. As the violence continued, one of the president's sons texted Mr. Meadows, quote, "He's got to condemn this shit ASAP. The Capitol Police tweet is not enough," Donald Trump Jr. texted. Meadows responded, quote, "I'm pushing it hard. I agree." Still, President Trump did not immediately act. Donald Trump Jr. texted again and again, urging action by the president. Quote, "We need an Oval Office address. He has to lead now. It has gone too far and gotten out of hand," end quote. But hours passed, without necessary action by the president. These non-privileged texts are further evidence of President Trump's supreme dereliction of duty during those 187 minutes. And Mr. Meadows' testimony will bear on another key question before this committee. Did Donald Trump, through action or inaction, corruptly seek to obstruct or impede Congress's official proceedings to count electoral votes? Mark Meadows' testimony is necessary to inform our legislative judgments.
Okay, so that's a lot of different things that she said. But at the end, she says, did Donald Trump corruptly seek to obstruct or impede Congress's proceedings? This is being considered the most direct signal thus far that there is the possibility that Donald Trump might be charged with pretty serious federal crimes. What Cheney read there relates to 18 U.S. Code subsection 1505, obstruction of proceedings before departments, agencies, and committees. The issue here, of course, being Donald Trump's attempt to obstruct investigation into himself and also attempts to obstruct the proceedings which would correctly assess Joe Biden the winner of the 2020 election. And it reads, whoever with intent to avoid, evade, prevent, or obstruct compliance with any civil investigative demand duly and properly made, willfully withholds, misrepresents, removes from any place, conceals, covers up, etc., shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or if it involves international or domestic terrorism, up to 8 years. So the idea here is that Liz Cheney is hinting at possible criminal charges for Donald Trump over the entire situation now that has exploded for Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, involving text messages, involving a PowerPoint which very directly said, here's how we would do the coup, and here are the different elements that we would look at doing there. A number of different legal analysts are talking about this. Harvard Law School professor emeritus Lawrence Tribe pointed out that refers specifically to U.S. Code subsection 1505, 18 U.S. Code subsection 1505. And CNN's Ellie Honig made a similar comment when he was interviewed by John Berman. And so this is now going to be a question of whether or not Donald Trump could get away with claiming presidential immunity. That would be the next layer here. Imagine that this happens, okay? And again, this is why I see it as unlikely, but I'm a little bit closer to thinking it's conceivable that there could be charges, although the guy is not going to spend the day in prison. If indeed they tried to charge Trump for his role in any of these various obstructive acts, because there's actually no shortage of them, he would likely first claim that he had presidential immunity for anything that he did. Now, the problem with that is, how do you justify Trump's obstructive actions with regard to investigations into him or directions of others to obstruct? How do you justify that as a presidential duty? Because at the end of the day, immunity is limited based on the legal experts I've spoken to and the scholarship that I've read. The immunity is limited to his official duties or things carried out clearly in his role as president. So fortunately or unfortunately, I know many of you don't like this, but when a president makes a decision for a country to go to war, and people die as a result of that, could be American troops, could be foreign troops, could be civilians, it is very difficult to hold them accountable as if these were individual criminal acts, because they do have pretty broad presidential immunity. Could it be challenged? Maybe. But the point here is, we are now arguably outside of that. The argument that would be made against Trump's claim of presidential immunity, and there's a bunch of different people who have tweeted about this and written good commentaries. How do you justify that Donald Trump's obstructive acts related to his own wrongdoing would be covered by presidential immunity. And there are some people who say, yeah, if the president does it, it's not a crime, hearkening back to Richard Nixon. But there is a debate about that. And fundamentally, if there were charges, Donald Trump would likely try to assert that he had presidential and has presidential immunity on the basis of what he did. And then it would become, well, are the obstructive acts actually covered by immunity? And there is an argument to be made that they are not. It would be a fight. It would be a very, very big legal fight, could be ages. But the first signal that maybe there are people in Congress, a Republican no less, thinking of crimes related to Donald Trump's actions. Of course, the crimes would be up to the Justice Department to bring it. Still doesn't seem that Merrick Garland seems super interested in that. That'll be a story for a different day. One of our sponsors is Self-Decode. Self-Decode is a genetic testing and analysis platform that gives you tools to gain insights about your health based on your DNA. This is a new technology. We're still learning so much about what of substantive value can we get from these types of results. But by using artificial intelligence and machine learning, you can get personalized insights based on your specific DNA, as well as getting lab test analysis and recommendations. Really, a lot of interesting ways to get information about yourself through the Self-Decode platform. They never sell your information, they never give away your information to anybody. Self-Decode sent me a DNA kit to get my saliva. I did the test, sent it back, and in just a few weeks, I had my results. I found, for example, that genetically, I'm not at big risk for kidney stones, not at big risk for asthma. Unfortunately, I'm at slightly increased risk of headaches, which is true. And the recommendations you get are really simple and logical things relating to sleep, relaxation, etc. Very, very interesting. And this is a technology that's going to develop and mature significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. Self-Decode is giving my audience 25% off when you click the link below and use the coupon code PACMAN.